The earth remembers. 3 hours after the main tremor tore through the valley, the ground still shivers with smaller convulsions, each one a reminder that the mountain has not finished speaking. Dust hangs in the air like a mourning veil, suspended above what remains of the village. Broken timber frames jutting upward like fractured ribs, stone walls collapsed into themselves, the geometry of human life reduced to angles of ruin. In this landscape of erasure, where every structure has been humbled, a 78-year-old woman named Kamala moves through the rubble with the careful steps of someone who has learned that survival is often a matter of precise weight distribution and patience. Her knees protest with each movement, the cartilage worn thin from 7 decades of work in terraced fields, but she has trained herself not to listen to pain. It is merely information, not instruction. The air tastes of crushed stone and exposed earth, that ancient mineral smell that rises when the planet's skin is peeled back. Around her, the other villagers have retreated to the open ground near the river, where tremors cannot bring walls down upon their heads, where the safety protocols insist they must remain. But Kamala has heard something else, something that pulls her away from safety and toward the collapsed community center, where the tin roof now rests at a 45-degree angle against a pile of stone and splintered wood. The sound comes again, a high-pitched mewling that cuts through the settling dust and the distant shouts of rescue workers 2 valleys over. It is not a human sound, not the cry of a trapped villager or a wounded goat. Kamala has lived near the forest boundary for 53 years, long enough to know the vocabulary of the wild. This is the distress call of a tiger cub, perhaps 4 or 5 months old enough to have ventured from its mother's immediate protection, but too young to survive alone. The irony does not escape her, that the earthquake which destroyed human structures may have also disrupted the hidden den sites in the rocky outcroppings above the village, forcing wildlife into proximity with human suffering. She approaches the collapsed building with the methodical caution of someone who understands that rubble is unstable architecture, that every removed stone changes the equation of what remains standing. The cub's cries grow more desperate, interspersed now with longer silences that suggest exhaustion or injury, or the slow suffocation that comes when dust fills small lungs. Kamala calculates the risks with the cold arithmetic of age. She has lived 78 years, most of them good, many of them hard. The cub has lived perhaps 4 months. The mathematics of life remaining should make her decision easy, should send her back to the river where safety waits. Instead, she kneels beside the rubble and begins to assess the puzzle before her. The collapsed roof has created a void space beneath it, a triangular cavity where the tin sheeting rests against a fallen support beam, which in turn leans against a portion of wall that somehow remained vertical. Inside this accidental architecture, the cub is trapped, close enough that Kamala can hear the rasp of its breathing, far enough that she cannot see it in the darkness beneath the layered debris. Her hands, gnarled with arthritis and marked with the scars of a lifetime of agricultural labor, begin to move stones. She does not hurry. Hurrying in rubble creates cascades, sets off chain reactions, where the removal of one element brings down everything else. Each stone must be evaluated. Is it load-bearing or merely resting? Will its removal create space or collapse what little shelter remains? She works with the patient methodology of someone who has spent decades building and maintaining stone walls in fields, understanding that stones speak to each other through points of pressure. That architecture is frozen force. The cub cries out again, and this time she can hear the weakness in it, the voice of a young animal that has been crying for hours, that has exhausted its water reserves and now faces the compound dangers of dehydration, shock, and the slow, crushing weight of debris that may shift with the next aftershock. An aftershock comes magnitude 4.2, though Kamala has no seismograph to measure it, only her body's response to the rolling motion beneath her feet, the way the rubble groans and settles another inch. She throws herself flat, protecting her head with her arms, waiting for the 7 seconds of shaking to pass, praying that the void space beneath the roof does not collapse completely. When the trembling stops, she listens through the ringing silence for the cub's voice. Nothing. 10 seconds pass. 20. Then weakly the mewling resumes and Kamala releases a breath she did not know she was holding. She returns to her work, but now with the acute awareness that time is not merely passing, it is being stolen by the clock of aftershock probability. The largest aftershock, she knows from the stories of previous earthquakes, often comes within the first 3 days, sometimes within hours. Every minute she spends here is a minute when the next tremor might arrive, when tons of unstable material might shift and crush both her and the animal she is trying to save. The rational mind suggests retreat. The part of her that has outlived a husband, 2 sons, and the slow erosion of her own body's strength suggests something else. That meaning is found not in the duration of life, but in the moments when we refuse to calculate. She has cleared enough stones now to see into the cavity. The cub lies on its side, its orange and black striped fur matted with dust that turns the vivid colors into shades of gray. One of its hind legs is pinned beneath a section of wooden beam, not crushed but trapped, held fast by weight the cub cannot move. Its eyes, still the blue-gray of infancy, not yet transformed into the amber of adulthood, fix on Kamala with an expression that is neither trust nor fear, but something more fundamental, desperation. The cub is perhaps 12 kilograms, small enough that in other circumstances it would still be nursing, still learning the basics of stalking and pouncing through play with siblings. Its mother is nowhere visible, likely driven away by the earthquake's chaos, or perhaps trapped herself in a collapsed den higher in the mountains. Tiger mothers are devoted but not suicidal. If the den collapsed and she managed to escape, her instinct might have been to save herself and attempt to return later, not knowing that the cub would be discovered by humans first. Kamala reaches toward the trapped leg, moving slowly, speaking in the low, steady voice she once used with frightened livestock. The cub flinches but does not try to bite. It is too exhausted, too young to fully understand that this human might be dangerous. Its claws, still small and not fully sharpened, flex uselessly against the wooden floor beneath it. The beam that pins the leg is perhaps 15 kilograms, not impossibly heavy but awkward, wedged at one end beneath a larger piece of masonry. Kamala cannot simply lift it. Her grip strength, measured recently at a mobile health clinic, registered in the lower quartile for her age group, the inevitable result of decades of hard labor, compounded by the progressive muscle loss of aging. But leverage, she knows, is force multiplied by distance. She searches the rubble for a suitable lever, finding a length of iron rebar that once reinforced the concrete foundation. Threading it beneath the beam, she positions a fulcrum point, a chunk of stone placed at the calculated distance, and begins to press down on the longer end of the lever. The beam lifts incrementally, grudgingly. The cub, sensing the pressure releasing from its leg, tries to pull free, but panic makes it clumsy. It yanks too hard and the sudden movement shifts the beam, nearly dislodging Kamala's lever. She calls out sharply, a sound that means wait in any language, and somehow the cub stills. Perhaps it is coincidence. Perhaps some ancient part of its brain recognizes the universal mammalian signal for hold still or we both die. Kamala presses down again, muscles trembling with the sustained effort, and this time she holds the beam aloft long enough for the cub to drag its leg free. The moment the limb clears, she releases the lever and the beam crashes down, sending up a fresh cloud of dust that sets both human and tiger coughing. The cub stands on shaking legs, testing the recently trapped limb. No obvious break, no angle that suggests fracture, though the leg will be bruised and stiff. It takes one unsteady step toward the deeper shadows of the cavity, a young animal's instinct to hide when injured and frightened. But Kamala has not risked aftershocks and exhaustion to free a cub that will simply die of dehydration in a different part of the rubble. She reaches forward, not grabbing, not chasing, but simply blocking the retreat with her body, and the cub turns. For a moment they regard each other, the ancient human and the infant predator, separated by species and intention, but united by the simple fact of being alive in this moment of ruin. Then, with a movement that surprises them both, Kamala scoops the cub into her arms, wrapping it in the cotton shawl she wears against the mountain cold. The cub struggles for 3 seconds, then surrenders to the exhaustion that has been pursuing it since the earthquake first struck. Its heartbeat thunders against Kamala's chest, trip hammer fast. the metabolism of a growing predator running even in distress. She can feel the ribs beneath the fur, the dehydration already beginning to hollow the cub out from within. The journey from the collapsed building to the open ground is only 50 meters, but it feels like kilometers. Each step must be calculated, placed on stable ground, avoiding the rubble that shifts underfoot and the fissures that opened in the earth during the main shock. The cub's weight, negligible when she first lifted it, seems to increase with each meter, the burden settling into her arms and shoulders, reminding her that she is not 40, not 50, not even 60. Her lower back, which has troubled her for a decade, sends sharp messages of protest. She ignores them, focusing instead on the rhythm of breathing, of placing one foot ahead of the other, of maintaining balance on uncertain ground. Around her, the landscape looks like something from the end of the world. Buildings transformed into abstract sculptures of destruction, personal belongings scattered across the streets like the debris of a life exploded. She passes a child's shoe, a cooking pot, a framed photograph of someone's grandparents, the glass shattered but the faces still visible beneath the spider web of cracks. These objects, so recently meaningful, have been rendered into mere matter by the earthquake's indifference. Yet in her arms, the cub stirs, shifts, presses its dust-covered face against her collarbone, and she is reminded that meaning is not inherent in objects, or even in moments. It is something we create through action, through the decision to carry forward what would otherwise be left behind. At the river, the gathered villagers fall silent as Kamala approaches. They see the orange and black fur emerging from her shawl, see the unmistakable stripes of a tiger, and the silence transforms into a murmur of concern, fear, and confusion. Tigers are respected here, even revered, but they are also dangerous, unpredictable, and increasingly desperate as their habitat shrinks and human settlements expand. A cub means a mother nearby, and a mother searching for her cub is among the most dangerous creatures in these mountains. Kamala understands their fear, acknowledges it with a nod, but does not stop. She moves to the edge of the river, kneels with difficulty on the rocky bank, and unwraps the cub. It blinks in the sudden light, disoriented, and tries to stand, but its legs are uncooperative. She cups water in her palm, holds it to the cub's mouth. At first it does not understand, but then instinct takes over. The tongue, pink and surprisingly rough, laps at the water, once, twice. Then with increasing urgency, the cub drinks from her cupped hands, consuming the water so quickly that she must refill her palms again and again, drawing from the cold mountain river that still runs clear, despite the earthquake's disruption. A forest ranger arrives 20 minutes later, summoned by one of the villagers who ran to the makeshift communications post established after the quake. The ranger, a young man named Ravi, trained in wildlife management and emergency response, approaches cautiously, speaking first to Kamala in the respectful tones one uses with elders, then examining the cub with practiced efficiency. The hind leg shows bruising but no break. The dehydration is moderate but not critical. The cub is underweight but not starving. It has perhaps been separated from its mother for less than a day, likely during the earthquake's chaos. The question becomes, what now? The mother may still be alive, may still be searching, but the den site, if it was in the rocky areas that collapsed, is no longer viable. Releasing the cub at the exact location where Kamala found it might reunite them, or it might simply leave the cub vulnerable to leopards, wild dogs, or the cold mountain nights that can drop below freezing at this altitude. Ravi makes a call on his satellite phone, consulting with the regional wildlife authority. The decision comes back. They will attempt a soft release near the location, setting up camera traps to monitor whether the mother returns, meanwhile providing supplemental food and water to give the cub a chance at survival while the search continues. Kamala helps prepare the release site, directing Ravi to a sheltered overhang that did not collapse during the quake, a natural cavity in the rocks that will provide protection from weather and predators. They carry the cub there together, wrapped now in a warming blanket from Ravi's emergency kit, its body temperature slowly stabilizing after the hours of stress and exposure. When they place it in the sheltered spot, the cub does not immediately flee into the darkness. Instead, it turns back, looking at Kamala with those blue-gray eyes that will someday become the amber gaze of an apex predator. For 3 seconds, maybe 4, the exchange holds. The woman who has lived long enough to see the world change beyond recognition, and the cub that represents a species fighting to maintain its foothold in a landscape increasingly dominated by human needs and disasters. Then the cub turns and limps deeper into the cavity, disappearing into shadows, carrying with it the scent of human hands and river water, and the dust of collapsed buildings. 3 days later, the camera traps capture footage of an adult tigress approaching the overhang, calling softly, and the cub emerging, tentative at first, then rushing forward to reunite with its mother in a tangle of stripes and relief, and the fundamental bond that connects parent to offspring across all species. The tigress leads her cub away into the deeper forest, toward territories less affected by the earthquake, toward whatever future awaits them in a world where tectonic plates shift and human villages expand, and the space for wild things grows narrower each year. But for now, in this moment, they are together. The rescue is complete, not because it was easy or safe, or even particularly wise, but because a 78-year-old woman looked at rubble and fear and the calculus of risk, and decided that some lives are worth the reaching, some cries are worth the answer, some trembling ground is worth the crossing. The earth will shake again, this is certain. But between the tremors, in the spaces between disaster and recovery, there are these moments: a cub freed, a leg healed, a reunion made possible by the simple, stubborn refusal to walk away from distress. Kamala returns to the village, to the work of rebuilding, to the temporary shelters and the long process of restoration. Her back aches. Her knees remember every step. But when she closes her eyes at night, she does not see only ruins. She sees blue-gray eyes looking back at her from the darkness, and she hears the soft sounds of a reunion she will never witness, but helped make possible. This, too, is survival, not just enduring, but extending the possibility of endurance to others who would otherwise be lost in the rubble of a world that shakes beneath us all.